You're seeing that, right? 3, 2.
NATO is furious at President Trump for demanding that NATO nations live up to their promises and responsibilities. NATO Representative Venn Diagram, an obscure politician from some snowy nowhere just north of Sunrise, says the president's irresponsible demands that NATO stop taking advantage of the U.S. threaten to bring an end to 75 years of peace and prosperity brought on by NATO taking advantage of the U.S. In a statement translated from some incomprehensible language or other, Mr. Diagram told reporters, quote, President Trump's demands that we help pay for our own defense fly in the face of our normal practice of sticking America with our defense bill and then bragging about all the social spending we can afford because our army consists of a 7-year-old in a soldier's suit playing with a toy truck. If we are forced to actually pay to defend ourselves, we would no longer be able to look down on our American allies for stinting on their social spending because they're wasting their money on us. President Trump must remember that it is America's sacred duty to spend its money protecting the NATO countries from Russia so the NATO countries can use their money to buy oil from Russia, unquote. Mr. Diagram then went on to invite reporters to visit the many tourist sites in his country, including Santa's workshop and a big old patch of ice. He said, quote, he said, quote, it is historic locations like these that NATO was built to defend. So maybe Trump's right, and who cares? Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shaped, ipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
It's like I write these things and then I get to the line and it takes me by surprise. I crack myself up. All right, the mailbag today. Great questions in the mailbag. Very, very interesting stuff. That's how great it is. Lindsay is screaming all the way from Texas. Also on Tuesday, July 17th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, the conversation returns. And this time, your questions will be answered by me, so you know the answers are correct. I will be violating the court order and getting close to our lovely host, Alicia Krause. The Q&A will stream live on YouTube and Facebook for everyone to watch, but only subscribers can ask me questions over at dailywire.com. Alicia is like the original Me Too, you know. She has to sit next to me. Check out the pinned comments on this video for more information. Once again, subscribe to get your questions answered by me on Tuesday, July 17th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, and join the conversation. And if you can't get enough of me, and who can, really, when it comes down to it, go on over to yaf.org because they are booking speeches for the fall. You can have me come to your campus, or I'll come to your living room if you can afford it, and give a speech, yaf.org, me and Knowles. You can get either one of us. That's an easy choice. Also, finally, because there's just so much me. There is so much me. Go on City Journal. I gave them a long-form interview. Really, I thought it came out really well about finding Christ in a secular world. They have both the transcript and the audio, so you can get it all on City Journal. I think it's city-journal.org, but just Google City Journal and you'll find it. Plus, see this beautiful watch? You think that's got to cost a lot, but it doesn't, because it's a Movement watch, and Movement makes incredibly nice watches for a low price. They start as low as $95. How do they do it? They leave out the vowels. It's spelled MVMT, so you don't have to pay for all those expensive vowels. If you were paying for the vowels, the thing would be a fortune. This company has grown like crazy. It's almost sold 2 million watches in 160 countries. They continue to revolutionize fashion on the belief that style shouldn't break the bank. You can get 15% off today with free shipping and free returns by going to That's how you pronounce it without the vowels. It's MVMT.com/Andrew. See why Movement keeps growing. Check out their expanding collection of beautiful watches. They got sunglasses too. Go to movement.com/Andrew, MVMT. One thing I love is I love a beautiful watch, but I'm just too cheap to really pay the big prices. So Movement solves the problem. Join the Movement. All right. One of the biggest mistakes you can make in life, and we all do it, everybody does it, is explaining away the opinions of your opposition, right? People do this to each other all the time. They say, well, you're just saying that because X, Y, and Z. You're just saying that because you're black. The left is always saying because you're white, because you're racist, because of this and that. My favorite has been that David Brooks one where he says, we don't have terrorism because of Muhammad, because of Muhammad's philosophy. It's because these are young men out of jobs. But the thing is, you got to listen to what people are saying. I remember during the election, people said, well, you've decided to vote for Donald Trump because older people have decided that this is the last election. So they're sacrificing everything for this election. I thought, well, maybe I've decided to vote for Donald Trump because older people are wiser than younger people. Maybe that's it, you know. But the point is, you got to listen to what people are saying. If the terrorist says, I'm killing you because of Allah, it is probably true that he is killing you because of his interpretation of Allah. And you should listen to what he's saying. And that is how you learn stuff and really find out what's going on. And this comes up both in understanding Trump, who's constantly being dismissed either as an idiot or as a guy who's playing 10-dimensional chess, and nobody just listens to what he's saying and thinking, well, that may be right, that may be wrong. And, of course, it comes into play with us when we listen to the Democrats, what the Democrats are saying in their opposition to Brett Kavanaugh, Trump's Supreme Court pick. We didn't have, the show was so crowded yesterday that we didn't have time to really go into this. So I want to just take a look at this because I want to look at what they're saying and what I feel about what they're saying, what my arguments are about what they're saying. The Democrats, like I said yesterday, they're in Trump has put them in a genuine political bind. They are all out hysterical. If they become completely hysterical and demonize Brett Kavanaugh, they shoot their wad. They waste their gunpowder because either Breyer or Ruth Bader Ginsburg, they're getting up there. If Trump wins re-election, they could easily die in that period or retire. And then when he says, well, okay, now I'll pick Amy Barrett, they've already done their literally Hitler routine and they can't do it again. On the other hand, if they don't get hysterical, they lose the base because their base is absolutely nuts. So they're making basically three arguments. And the three arguments they have, the first one, here's a summary of their general arguments.
I'm having hysterics. I'm hysterical. I can't stop when I get like this. I can't stop. I'm hysterical.
All right. But more specifically, their first argument is that Kavanaugh is an extremist. Here is the lovely and talented Chuck Schumer putting that forward.
Do you believe Judge Kavanaugh is an extremist?
I believe he is far, far right on so many issues. The ones I've mentioned, and particularly alarming, is, of course, the one about presidential power at a time when we have a president who just routinely overreaches and doesn't respect rule of law. But I also, on gun rights, on environmental rights, on LGBTQ rights, he is way, way, way to the right of the American people. He is not a mainstream judge. And that's why the Federalist Society and the Heritage Foundation, groups that are not in the mainstream, have chosen him, have pre-selected him. Had Donald Trump chosen someone from off the list, which I urged him to do when he called me, we might be in a different situation. But the fact that the president campaigned on these things and created his own litmus tests, and then the fact that he let two groups that vehemently, strongly, fervently believe in these two things makes it pretty clear that this is an extreme nominee.
See, this is really important, and this is a bind that the Democrats have gotten themselves in through their ownership of the media and Hollywood, is they don't know where the American public is, okay? The American public, I mean, most people are not extreme right-wingers or extreme left-wingers. They are nuanced. They have thoughts about things. They figure out, yes, on this issue I'm here, on this issue I'm there. The polls don't always even reflect that, because when you go and talk to people and don't just ask them a pre-packaged question that they have to say yes or no to, they will explain their thinking. And a lot of times they have a lot of nuanced thoughts. Like when you read that book, The Great Revolt by Selena Zito, we had her on the show. She went out and interviewed the Trump voters, and they had a lot of things to say. I don't like Trump here, I don't like him there, but ultimately he was the best test. Chuck Schumer doesn't know what an extremist is. He has no idea what an extremist is. Brett Kavanaugh wants to follow the Constitution. He does not want to make law in the Supreme Court, and this is really important. How do most people feel about that? Do most people feel that, yes, the Supreme Court should just follow the law as written? I would believe they probably do. I mean, the press can get people ginned up and excited over things, but I don't think Chuck Schumer knows what an extremist is. And I think this is a big problem for Democrats. If they think they're making themselves beautiful by screaming at people and harassing people, I think they're really mistaken about this. That's my guess. So this extremist argument is one of the weakest parts of the Democrat Party, is because they are surrounded by people who agree with them in Washington, on the press, and in Hollywood. They think the culture is on their side. I think they are way, way, way wrong, especially on Roe v. Wade. On Roe v. Wade, remember, if Roe v. Wade is repealed, the issue just goes back to the states. Liberal states will have abortion law, pro-abortion laws. Other states may not have abortion laws. It is not like we're suddenly going to be living in the Handmaid's Tale. It's just that people are going to have to convince you of what you want in your state, which is the way a federalist society is supposed to work. So you had Dana Bash talking to Mensch, the vice president, Mike Pence. We always shorten it to Mensch because we like him. He's a Mensch. So Dana Bash is talking to him, and Pence is great on this. He's great in this interview. Dana Bash, I actually pay her respect here. She's just doing her job. She's trying to get him to say that this judge will repeal Roe v. Wade. This is cut number 4.
Are you worried that he's not going to follow what you want to do?
Well, Dana, as you know, I'm pro-life. I don't apologize for it. And I'm proud to be part of a pro-life administration that's advanced pro-life policies. But what I can assure you is that what the president was looking for here was a nominee who will respect the Constitution as written, who will faithfully uphold the Constitution in all of his interpretations of the law.
Do you still want Roe versus Wade to be overturned?
Well, I do, but I haven't been nominated to the Supreme Court.
Right, but you're
Judge
part of the
Kavanaugh
administration that campaigned, you and the president
That's
campaigned,
right.
saying
That's right.
you will find nominees to overturn Roe versus Wade. Will you be disappointed if he is given that opportunity and he doesn't? Will you be disappointed?
Well, let me say, as I said, I stand for the sanctity of life. This administration, this president are pro-life. But, you know, what the American people ought to know is that, as the president said today, this is not an issue that he discussed with Judge Kavanaugh. I didn't discuss it with him either.
See, Dana Bash thinks that if he can get the confession out of Mike Pence that this guy is anti-Roe, which is not really clear and kind of doubtful that he would be that radical to repeal it, but he might, I don't know. You know, when she thinks if she does that, the whole country's going to go up in smoke. That's not true. It's not that people don't have nuanced views on abortion rights and abortion laws. They do. But Roe v. Wade is different, remember, than abortion. Roe v. Wade takes away from the states the power to make law on an issue that's not mentioned in the Constitution. Hey, you know, here in L.A., we depend on our cars. We live for our cars and we live in our cars. And we got to know, you know, I used to be able to fix cars, but now that they're computerized, it's impossible. So your car breaks down and you go to the mechanic and the mechanic says to you, well, the Gibestrad is rubbing up against the Phobosnute, and you have no idea what he's talking about. Get one of these little things. They're called Fixed, F-I-X-D. I think it costs about $39, and you plug it into your car. Each new cars all come with these plugs that you put it in, and it constantly scans your car for problems and tells the app that you get, a free app you get on your phone, it tells you in plain English what is wrong with your car. This was created by 3 Georgia Tech grads. They wanted a simple, easy-to-use product that would eliminate shady mechanics' ability to rip people off. It's selling like crazy. Fixed alerts you to over 7,000 potential issues in real time. It's very cool, too. It's really fun. You get it right on your phone. Right now, you can get Fixed, it's F-I-X-D, for as low as $39 each. Plus, my listeners will get an additional 10% off when you enter the promo code Klavan. And I know what you're thinking. How do you spell that? It's K-L-A-V-A-N. Go to www.listentomycar.com. www.listentomycar.com and enter promo code Klavan for an additional 10% off the already discounted price of Fixed, F-I-X-D. Really simple to use, really useful. All right. By the way, speaking of the fact that the Democrats are lost in their own world, this is off the topic a little bit. We're going through the arguments against Kavanaugh, but I just got to play my favorite cut of the reactions to Kavanaugh. Jeffrey Toobin has just been covering himself in disgrace. He's the legal analyst at CNN. And he had this comment. This was his comment on hearing about Brett Kavanaugh. This should be cut 10.
Can I just make, we're talking about personal points?
Yeah.
Think about 2 people who watched tonight. Brett Kavanaugh is a judge on the D.C. Circuit. You know who the chief judge of the D.C. Circuit is? It's Merrick Garland. How do you think he feels today? I mean, Merrick Garland is a class act. He's moved on with his life. But, you know, the idea that he never got the moment that Kavanaugh is going to get him. And he got the moment of being announced, but he never got. The other person is
Trump's sister.
The Trump sister whose advice was not taken, but Hillary Clinton. I mean, Brett Kavanaugh made his name by investigating not just the Star, not just Whitewater, but the Monica Lewinsky part.
Right.
The sexual details.
The tawdry, sordid, and deep and dark stuff.
His, making his name for himself got him on the trajectory that he is today. And Hillary Clinton has to watch yet another Supreme Court nomination that she thought she was going to
Right.
This is what Toobin thinks moves the hearts of the American people, what Merrick Garland and Hillary Clinton are feeling. They're, oh my God, what are they, the king and queen? Who cares what they're feeling? We're all feeling things. This is what bothers Jeffrey Toobin. He thinks he probably thinks people are sitting at home dabbing at their eyes, with Kleenex. Oh my gosh, poor Hillary Clinton. Anyway, the third argument is my favorite. It is a beaut. It is the argument that Trump is appointing Kavanaugh to get him off the hook for his collusion with Russia. This is wonderful because now they have ginned themselves up. I don't know if you saw this in New York Magazine, to the fact they're actually making the argument that Trump is a Russian spy. So help me, this is true. I am not making this up. They have this whole chart. Do we have that chart? Do you have the chart? If you can see this, this chart that they put out, it's like something out of conspiracy theory with Mel Gibson. He's got all the strings attached and everybody, and Trump is a Russian spy. Cory Booker delivers, this thing. I love this. Cory Booker delivers the whole conspiracy theory of why he's appointing Brett Kavanaugh.
Well, first and foremost, we need to understand that this was the only pick amongst his entire list that has explicitly said that a president should not be a subject of a criminal investigation. It's almost as if President said, let me find the person that's most going to protect me, under an investigation that's already led to over 70 charges, over 20 individuals, corporations have been charged, 5 guilty pleas, 1 sentencing. So we have an ongoing investigation that's a bipartisan supported investigation, as we saw throughout the Senate committee, and a president who's saying, I have a chance to now make sure the Supreme Court gives me a get out of jail free card, or gives me indemnifies me against many issues that might come my direction. And so this is a time in American history where we literally have the Supreme Court deciding, can a president in any way pardon himself? Can a president stop a criminal investigation? Can a president fire key people who are doing this investigation? All those things can end up before the Supreme Court. And he now has just put somebody there who has writing that basically said very clearly the president should be free of such investigations. And that to me is a massive conflict of interest.
That's utter, the whole thing is utter nonsense. First of all, the idea that there have been all these charges from the Russia investigation and that house somehow implicates Trump. Virtually none of these charges had anything to do with Trump. Most of them took place before the campaign was going on. Some of them are charges against entities in Russia that we know not of, that will never come to trial. I mean, it's just, that part is nonsense. What did he say? What did Brett Kavanaugh say? He wrote a piece for the Minnesota Law Review in which, Kavanaugh started out, he was in the Starr investigation against Hillary Clinton. And he pointed out in this article, which is true, that because Clinton was wrapped up in the Monica Lewinsky scandal and the Starr investigation, he did not pay full attention to bin Laden. And several times he let bin Laden get away when he could have been killed because he was afraid of his standing. He felt his standing had been weakened because of this investigation. And so Kavanaugh wrote a piece saying, it might be a good idea for Congress to pass a law saying that a president would be protected from criminal investigation and indictment while he was in the White House. He didn't say that the Supreme Court should pass a law. He said Congress might want to pass a law to do this. Now, that is really important because it speaks to Kavanaugh's commitment to the separation of powers. They keep saying, he respects the executive. No, he respects the separation of powers, which we learned yesterday protects your freedom so that judge, jury, and executioner are not all in the same place. Lawmaker, judiciary, and executive are not all in the same place. That protects your freedom. And that is what they're really worried about because they picture the Supreme Court as a legislative body. They want all the power. They have wanted all the power solidified completely in the Supreme Court. They wanted to make law. Bernie Sanders said this. He was asked about why he approved of one of these judges on Trump's list for a lower court, but wouldn't approve of him for the higher court. Listen to what Sanders says.
There is a difference between voting for somebody in a lower court and somebody voting for somebody in the highest court of the land. There's a fundamental difference. And if he is the nominee...
Which is what? I mean, the principles would matter in either case, right?
Well, the principle is that the Supreme Court makes the law of the land and determines what happens in our country in virtually every area. So, yes, there is a fundamental difference.
No, they don't. They don't make the law of the land. They decide whether the law is constitutional, not whether it's right, not whether it's good, not whether it would help gay people have dignity or help women get abortions. They're just supposed to decide whether it's constitutional. That's their only job. And because this is every argument they're making, he's an extremist because he believes that. The argument against the extremism, he'll overturn Roe because Roe is clearly not a constitutional decision, and he's going to set the president free, which is just nonsense. But they fear it because they fear that they feel that the Supreme Court should be the lawmaker and the executive and the judiciary, where we feel it should be what it was meant to be in the Constitution. That is what all their arguments boil down to, that the Supreme Court, they feel the Supreme Court is something it is not supposed to be. You know, when you listen to their arguments, you learn stuff. And the same thing is true of our president, Donald Trump. You know, he has been so demonized on the one hand, and so much, it's all about how stupid he is. He's too stupid to know what he's doing. He's blundering through everything. He's all operating on instinct. That's the idea. Everything he does is on instinct. That's one side. And on the other side, he's playing six-dimensional chess upside down in a sealed water tank, which is also nonsense. He has a certain set of views that he is implementing in his foreign policy, which is where the president is most powerful. So he's in Brussels. This is great. I love this. He's in Brussels. He's sitting at a dinner with the NATO guys, with the NATO representatives, and it's just supposed to be a photo op. You know, they're snapping pictures, and he just goes off on NATO. He starts on complaining about the fact that they don't pay their fair share of their defense thing, which he's absolutely right about. But then he goes off on this rant against Germany paying the Russians to build another oil pipeline to bring oil into their country. Sitting at this table, listen to this.
It's very sad when Germany makes a massive oil and gas deal with Russia, where you're supposed to be guarding against Russia, and Germany goes out and pays billions and billions of dollars a year to Russia. So we're protecting Germany, we're protecting France, we're protecting all of these countries. And then numerous of the countries go out and make a pipeline deal with Russia, where they're paying billions of dollars into the coffers of Russia. So we're supposed to protect you against Russia, but they're paying billions of dollars to Russia, and I think that's very inappropriate. And the former chancellor of Germany is the head of the pipeline company that's supplying the gas. Ultimately, Germany will have almost 70% of their country controlled by Russia with natural gas. So you tell me, is that appropriate? I mean, I've been complaining about this from the time I got in. It should have never been allowed to have happened. But Germany is totally controlled by Russia.
So everybody's screaming about this. How can he do this? He's destroying NATO. NATO protects us. He's treating our friends like our enemies, and then he's friends with Russia. He's exactly right. This is exactly right. They are giving Russia $11 billion, and the reason they need the Russian oil is because they shut down their nuclear plants. Why did they shut down their nuclear plants? Because they got scared by that, was it 2011, that Japanese failure of a nuclear plant after an earthquake. The earthquake happened and the plant automatically shut down, and then there was a tsunami, and that destroyed the generators so that there was a meltdown. Nobody died. I mean, that's how secure that's how secure nuclear power is. People died from the tsunami and people died from the earthquake, but they didn't die from the nuclear meltdown. That's how safe it is. But they all they've shut down coal because of their environmental policies, their green policies. They've shut down their nuclear power plants, and now they've got to buy oil from Russia. And then they're saying to us, protect us from Russia. Well, they're funneling $11 billion for this pipeline. Oh, the pipeline hasn't passed yet, but he's yelling about it. As well he should. Hey, you remember we had Brad Thor on the show the other day? A great guy and a terrific thriller writer. And he was talking about the fact that because he's a conservative, we don't know if this is why, but I'll tell you it's why, they haven't made his films into movies. But the second best thing, the next best thing to a movie of Brad Thor's great novels is listening to them on audiobook, and Spy Master, his latest, is available now. You can listen to Spy Master. It's the latest audiobook by Brad. He is a #1 New York Times best-selling military thriller author, as well he should be. His guy is Brad, what is his name? Horvath, right? Yeah. And he's the guy, What is it? Yeah, that's it. Scott Harvath. Sorry, he's a Navy SEAL turned covert counterterrorism operative. Scott Harvath. There it is in the thing. I've read a number of these. Spy Master is his later one. Is his latest one. Brad says it's about how far would you go to avoid war. You can get it on audiobook, read by Armand Schultz, who's been reading his books forever. They really have a very close relationship and understands it. He is just at the top of his game, as he has been for a long, long time. You can listen to the book, the audiobook. You can get it anywhere. Audiobooks are sold wherever you like it, at Audible or on Amazon, wherever you get your audiobooks. It is packed with action, great characters, electrifying intrigue, as always. That's Brad Thor's Spy Master, available as an audiobook. All right. It is now time for us to the mailbag, but we got to say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube. Come on over to thedailywire.com. Subscribe for a lousy $10 a month or $100 for the year. You will get the Leftist Tears tumbler just in time for the hearings on Brett Kavanaugh, and it will be filling up automatically every time a leftist cries, an angel gets his wings, and your tumbler fills up automatically. Subscribe. Come on over and hear the mailbag now.